I will show you how it was. The story of wartime Kyiv. In late February 2022, a series of missiles and rocket strikes began falling upon Ukraine as the Russian military barreled over the border. First they took Chernobyl, then Kherson, then Mariupol. Time stood still as the world waited for Ukraine to flatten underneath the boot of its neighbour. What happened next is the story of wartime Kyiv. It's by Illia Ponomarenko. I'm delighted to say that Illia joins us live on the line. Good morning to you, Illia.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
The pleasure is indeed all mine. You are a journalist, with the Kyiv Independent, no?
Yes, it's true. I co-founded Kyiv Independent shortly before the outbreak of the full-scale invasion, several months before that.
And so to keep a newspaper going during that time, I mean, you must have been in shock that this was happening and worried about yourself, your friends and your family, but also to keep the newspaper going.
It's not particularly a newspaper. It was a news website, an English news website, which was supposed to be, and it became so, an heir to Kyiv Post, the large newspaper, largest Ukrainian English language newspaper, from which we were all expelled on a sunny day of Monday in November 2021. So we decided, the team of the formerly Kyiv Post, we decided to stay together and to reestablish something new because the war crisis was looming. It was already in the air. The war is in the air. And we decided that we need to stay together and we need to keep carrying this flame of English language journalism about Ukraine by Ukrainians or by people actually living in Ukraine in this crisis. So it took us several days, maybe 3 or 4 days, that we went on public and actually established the new media outlet, the Kyiv Independent, as the alternative in the upcoming wartime.
Because I follow the Kyiv Independent on my Instagram account, and it was invaluable about finding what was going on, and also pictures from Kyiv itself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in many ways, the need for such a media outlet was because of the war crisis. And not only that, but also the need to have a voice of Ukrainians or people that have been living in Ukraine for quite a few years, because they know Ukraine, they know how our society works, they know the context of what was happening with Russia's war and everything that has been happening since 2014. With Russian invasions and the occupation of our country. So yeah, we really did our very best to not only unfold the media outlets without any money, without anything in our hands. We didn't have any office, no website for the first time. Essentially just a bunch of guys, Ukrainians and also a lot of non-Ukrainians, Brits, Japanese, French guys living in Ukraine. Step by step, and I'm really proud of this, that we managed not only unfold a real serious media outlet with everything that a media outlet needs, but also to stay organized, functional, and effective in the final days before the invasion, and moreover, in the chaos of this invasion. I seriously believe that was one of the greatest things that a media outlet can do, especially when it comes to like indie media outlet can do in such a large and extremely chaotic wartime, is to stay functional no matter what happens, because we had no idea what's going to happen as Russia really attacks. We seriously thought that we will go offline. I mean, we in Ukraine. So we had our plans when it comes to personal survival. When it comes to keeping the website functional, we relied a lot on our friends living in the United States and Canada so that they could support the website and update with any sort of information they can get about Ukraine, because we expected an absolute and complete and informational blackout here in Ukraine. And I think... I think the entire team, even though we were dispersed around the country, some of us stayed in Kyiv during the battle. Some of us were abroad. Some of the guys were transported to safe places around Ukraine. to avoid the hostilities. And I think it was a beautiful example of teamwork and the dedication in wartime among journalists that we managed to stay functional. I never expected that.
Mm. When I've interviewed John Sweeney, who's been basing himself in Kyiv for quite a period of time now, in his famous orange hat, and he said why did you stay in a war zone? And he said the purpose for it is just to shine a light on the darkness. Because if you don't report from what's going on, if independent media can't get the news out there, then Putin has won, basically.
Yeah, and he's absolutely right, because one of the things that we got from this war is that journalism as a phenomenon, as a thing, has really proved itself in this war. It has shown why it is so important that journalists are present on the place and are able to describe things, and moreover are able to draw the global attention on things that needs to be fixed, needs to get attention, needs to be in the spotlight. In many ways, yeah, we worked during the Battle of Kyiv. We had basically all of the elite media representatives of the world, basically everyone working in the city, and with a lot of dedication, a lot of defiance, a lot of respect to each other, I must say. I remember moments when, for instance, during the Battle of Irpin, I actually walked into the city, and I was getting closer and closer to the basically the contact line within the city, with all the chaos, all the civilians fleeing, troops moving in and out. And on my way through the central streets of Irpin during the battle, I saw so many journalists rushing in and out, coming in and out, and we didn't know each other's faces. We didn't know each other's name, but you see this badge named press. You see someone who's also extremely dedicated to what we do. Mm. You see a colleague. So we didn't know our names, but we could see each other from across the street, and we had just, hey, say hi, because that's your brother or sister coming there and doing our duty. Yeah. That was beautiful.
But it comes at a cost. It comes at a terrible cost. My friend Pierre Jajewski, who I've known for 30 years, was killed in Ukraine in the early years with his Ukrainian fixer columnist as well, Sasha. And it is dangerous there. He was working for Fox, and it is dangerous there.
We remember those guys. We remember those moments. That was huge. Always, the death of a reporter, be it Ukrainian, be it a foreigner, was a tragedy here in Ukraine. That was all in the news, because when it comes to a Ukrainian journalist, for instance, we had a tragic loss of a photographer, a famous photographer, Max Levin, who was Ukrainian, who was one of the greatest photographers in the history of journalism. And he unfortunately went missing during one of his missions to the front line, northwest of Kyiv, and we found him when the battle was over. Even though we had hope, we do remember American guys who were there with us, with so many people. I remember moments when we journalists, like groups of journalists, literally maybe a couple dozen journalists from around the world, English language journalists, Ukrainians, Italians, from top media outlets, but we were clinging to each other, almost literally hiding behind walls, as we were warned about possible Russian mortar shell. And that was truly camaraderie of people, professional people. So yeah, we remembered all those names from American guys who were killed, also Ukrainian fixers also next to them. So yeah, I absolutely assure you that the names of foreigners dedicating their duty and profession to what they do here in Ukraine, yeah, they are remembered. We do honor and remember them.
And for a lot of people who weren't aware of the situation before this current Russian invasion, because a lot of people would go, oh my goodness, Russia's invaded Ukraine. Well, for Ukraine, Russia had invaded when it annexed Crimea, of course.
Yes. We do try to do our best to explain the broader picture of this. It's not that really happened in February 2022. it's a lifeline story for us. For instance, I'm 32 right now, which means that I spent 1/3 part of my life amid this war. It's been for a decade, literally a decade. It started a decade ago, and if we go for even broader picture, it goes back to 20 years ago, because there was this gradually upcoming sense of hatred towards Ukraine, sense of conflict with Russia. The very existence of Ukraine as a independent nation that is so much different from Russia, that appreciates its independence and its unique nature, its selfness. See, it gradually became so terribly contradictory towards the position of Russia, the way Russia views itself, the way the Kremlin builds its power on, the very logic of of how they hold power over Russia. So the very nature of Ukraine as an independent and proud nation was incompatible to what Kremlin sees itself. So yeah, and I must say that in our generation, for my generation, for the active part of the society, following the Maidan revolution in 2014, and the subsequent occupation of Crimea and also war in Donbass, it's been a lifetime project that we dedicated a decade of our lives. Not only when it comes to the military or volunteering to fight on many other things, but also reforms, politics, making things better, making this country a stronger and a better place, and thus survive. And it goes on, and it's a constant battle against so many things that drag us into the past and prevent us from having a future. So yeah, it's a lifetime thing for many of us.
One of the things that people have also come to realize through the power of social media, and social media can be a bad thing, but social media can also be a good thing if it's done professionally, like you're doing, like you're doing it. Obviously, it's brought home to a lot of people that we're not talking abstracts here or geopolitical concepts. This is very much as wars always are. This is a story about people, and the way that people of Kyiv have come together, and we saw the struggles in Mariupol as well, which was just absolutely shocking, being sort of beamed around the world. And so, we have learned more about. I wouldn't wish to learn this about the Ukrainians in any other way, but it has brought, your struggles onto our smartphones, and we realise a tremendous history, a tremendous sort of camaraderie, and also, and people who are good fun.
I absolutely agree with you with the fact that, everything is a poison, but everything is a cure as well. And same goes with the social media thing. For one hand, yeah, social media tends to oversimplify things sometimes. Social media tends to be given a voice to, simple lies that are emotional, triggery, and catchy. But at the same time, social media, especially when it comes to, our days and the dominance of social media in today's media world, it also gives us a lot of opportunities to just speak up, to reach out to so many people in the West and in many other parts of the world, and to do it directly, face to face. I'm the guy living in Ukraine, for instance, and speaking up on social media and telling what I believe needs to be told here. And I address directly to so many people. So it's like a face-to-face conversation with so many people. And it's a unique opportunity because it gives you an opportunity not to have like a mediator between you. For instance, the very formal and formalized media outlets with all the standards, with all the formal approach. And it gives you just an opportunity to speak up to simple people just like you in this. And as one of the things that we try to do, or I try to do, is to show the what really stands behind the headlines, because all these dry headlines. But what's really happening behind these things? What really happens behind the headline that says Russia attacks Ukraine in a bid to eradicate this country? It means millions of lives broken. a doomsday for so many people, the end of the dream for so many people. This decade of reforms, of trying to survive in this terrible competition with a great power, of this struggle to make this country a better place, to modernize this country, to get rid of so many evils that dragged us into the past. It means the end of life for so many people. We must have no illusions, because whenever Russia comes, it opens a manhunt for those supporting Ukraine who are considered like Ukrainian nationalists, those who absolutely support, speaking Ukrainian or being part of Europe. One should have no illusions about all these mass graves that we discover in the liberated cities following Russian occupation. So it's a brutal thing. I understand that sometimes it sounds really wild in our day and age, when we were supposed to fly to the moon and have flying cars, but at the same time, what we have is the terrible breakthrough of something from deep past into our time. It's terrible things. It's many things, ugly things, wild things from the past just come back with this terrible war. And we try to show ourselves without, lying, without, twisting things, just show our faces, to explain our lives and show many people, particularly in the West, that we are the same. We watch the same movies. We appreciate the same music. We also love like jazz and rock and roll, hip hop, any sorts of things. That's why in many ways I show a lot of beautiful things about Kyiv, to show the significance, this historical, civilizational significance for our part of civilization. The beauties of the city, the vibrant life, so many beautiful, cool things about, living a life in Ukraine, to show it that Ukraine is a cool country, actually. It has its problems, of course, but, it's a country that has a extremely dramatic struggle to be a good place, and it has had a lot of successes. So it's a country that that deserves to win and to survive and to live on in happiness.
Is it fair that you have that the world kind of forgets? Because Russia's done this before with the conflict with Grozny, etc. So is the fear that you think is that Ukraine was all over on news feeds 2 years ago, and now you're worried because this now looks like a lot of Westerns was thinking Russian tanks will be in Kyiv in 48 hours, Zelensky will be deposed, shot, whatever, they'll take over. And now we are in, the second year, we're still seeing the campaign rumbling on. We're seeing fighting, obviously, in the east of the country. It's a valiant struggle. Is your worry that people kind of go, okay, well, I thought we'd finished with Ukraine, and we need to get people still listening, still supporting 2 years on?
Yeah, to me, it's a bit of a surprise that I come abroad to many countries upon invitation to speak at events and stuff, and I see really so many regular people that still care, still support Ukraine. For instance, the other day I was in Helsinki, and I was absolutely terrified by the number of Ukrainian flags demonstrated in the streets. And it's not just about the government policy or something like that. Government buildings have it because the nation's government do this. It's about mansions, hotels, businesses. A lot of people do this with their own initiative because they do feel this. And it's been more than 2 years, and in our time of these things running so wildly fast, it's really a huge surprise that so many people still care, because this entire story, this entire war is so dramatic, so dynamic, so simple, and so black and white that it touches upon so many, and it touches upon the very basic principles and strengths of humanity and human being. And most people are good people. See, yes, it's true that with the time, the scale of emotions and degrade, it goes down a bit by bit. But I must say that given the fact that we've been having this, the full scale war for the third year already, it's incredible that so many people still care. It's just because of this, in many ways, unique historic nature of what's happening. in this. And the fact that it touches upon the very basic things, the life and death.
You said about you were surprised about the number of Ukrainian flags that were in Helsinki, and I'm based in Marbella, and every Sunday for the first, say, couple of months after the invasion, I didn't know there was a big Ukrainian community in Marbella. I do now, because because the cars were going up and down with the Ukrainian flags every Sunday. And so if anything, it has got support. And, I did some events for some charities to send aid to Ukraine. It has underlined the fact that, that Ukraine is something that needs to be, protected and supported.
Yes, it is. One of the things I believe one of the reasons why so many people still care also is, in many ways, the heroic things that Ukrainian soldiers do. So many unique things has happened in this war. So many things that so many people could never even expect, let alone predict. So many absolutely mind-blowing historical things have happened in terms of the war, and so many brand new pages of the history of warfare was written in Ukraine. So many unique things in military history also happened, such as, the world's first ever cruise missiles destroying a submarine ashore. That's insane, and it happens all the time with this war. The first Russian military flagship sunk since the days of the Russian-Japanese War in the early 20th century. I mean, it's insane. It's simply insane. The greatest loss of tanks or armored vehicles since World War II in Europe. It's even bigger than the Yom Kippur War between Arabic countries and Israel, which was considered the greatest tank battle of the 20th century, following World War II, of course. Yeah. So many unique things and such a dramatic natures, and this absolutely record-breaking events, they give a lot of work for media too, and thus many people still have Ukraine in front of their faces, and many people still sympathize because people love underdogs. People love winners that win against all odds. That's why, the biblical legends and myths about Goliath and David are so basic and so in the deep of our human psychology. The very story of this someone small but extremely brave defeating a brutal power. It's so in depth of our psychology. So that's why people care. Most people are good people, and I must say that the biggest achievement of this, that so many people still care, it's about people in the uniform. Yeah, we must say that in many ways what's happening, so many things happen against all odds because of the heroic valor of people in Ukrainian uniforms out there in front lines.
Illia, I could talk to you about this all day, but unfortunately I am going to run out of time. So, because the news is coming up next, what do you hope that people will take from your book? I will show you how it was.
The very reason why I decided to write this, and the very reason why I decided to write this in this particular form, not a military history book as I wanted it to be, but the story of regular human beings in the middle of apocalypse. I decided to write it because that was such an outbreak of patriotism, defiance, emotion, love to humankind, hope as well. Things that were happening during the Battle of Kyiv. I'm on so many regular people, just like you and me, just like any other guy that you see in your regular life. And that was such a beautiful, at the same time, and a terrifying thing that it essentially was one of the things that were good about the human nature.
If people want to find you, if people want to find you on social media, where's the best place to find you? And obviously the Kyiv Independent.
Yeah, and it was so much hope, so much belief in what needs to be done against so many odds. Again, as half of the world was burned Ukraine alive, and people truly believe in what was right, truly doing what they had to do, doing this moral choice, and they won. They prevailed over undefeated evil.
The book is called, we'll show you how it was. Illia Ponomarenko, thank you so much for your time today.